Modifications that surveyors flag and insurers refuse to cover, ranked from hidden dangers to outright disasters. All of them can turn a legitimate claim into a denial letter. We're counting down the shortcuts that void policies and sink boats. The first one might already be on your vessel. Automotive alternators in gasoline engine rooms. The Delco Remy alternator from the salvage yard fits the mounting bracket perfectly and costs a fraction of a marine unit. But you've just installed a detonator next to your fuel tank. Car alternators use open ventilation. Brushes spark with every rotation. Those tiny arcs mean nothing in an automobile engine bay. In a gasoline boat compartment, they're catastrophic. Fuel vapors settle low, pooling beneath the engine where you cannot see them. One spark from an exposed brush ignites the cloud. The explosion splits fiberglass and turns cabins into wreckage. Coast Guard reports document the pattern every season. Non-marine alternator, no SAE J1171. Certification, explosion, total loss, claim denied. Marine alternators from manufacturers like Balmar are sealed or screened specifically to prevent ignition under any failure condition. That SAE J1171 stamp proves the unit was tested for marine flammable atmospheres. Surveyors check for that marking. Without it, you have no coverage. Replace any automotive alternator with a certified marine unit before the next trip. Saving $300 is meaningless when the alternative is a fireball that consumes the entire boat. Lithium drop-in batteries without system integration. Lithium iron phosphate batteries promise more capacity in less space, and many are marketed as direct replacements for lead-acid banks. The terminals match. Installation looks simple, but the electrical system was never designed for lithium behavior. Lithium cells demand maximum current without tapering. They pull every amp your alternator can produce and hold it there for hours. Most marine alternators were built for lead-acid charging profiles. Under continuous full output, windings overheat, insulation degrades, and diodes fail. Sometimes you smell burning. Sometimes the alternator catches fire before you notice the problem. Cheap battery management systems create another hazard. When the BMS detects overvoltage or overcurrent, it disconnects the battery instantly. The alternator loses its load while spinning at full speed. Voltage spikes destroy electronics and can rupture the alternator itself. Hot housings ignite nearby wiring. ABYC E13 requires lithium systems to include proper BMS coordination with charging sources and safe ramp down if the battery disconnects. Without lithium-specific regulators, alternator temperature monitoring, and correctly sized fuses, you've created a non-compliant modification. Adjusters see melted alternators and scorched wiring, then deny the claim for improper installation. Lithium requires full system redesign, not battery swapping. Anything less turns your engine room into a fire risk and your policy into worthless paper. Brass gate valves below the waterline hardware store. Brass valves cost less than marine bronze and look identical on the shelf, but install one as a seacock and you've started a countdown to failure. Most brass fittings were stamped for irrigation or residential plumbing. Seawater attacks the alloy through dezinsification. Salt pulls zinc from the metal, leaving behind porous pink copper. The valve might look fine externally while the interior crumbles. Surveyors tap these valves with screwdrivers. Flaking metal or dull pink color means the fitting has already failed structurally. Brass gate valves were never tested to ABYC H27 standards. They cannot survive the 500-pound pull requirement for through holes. When a heavy object strikes the valve or you wrench it shut during an emergency, it can shear completely, leaving a full bore opening below the waterline. Water floods in at hundreds of gallons per minute. The boat sinks before you locate the source. Insurance companies treat brass valve failures as owner negligence. Improper component selection voids sinking claims automatically. Replace every brass valve with true marine bronze, stamped with alloy code and pressure rating. Anything else is a structural failure waiting to happen. Camping propane systems in the cabin. A Coleman camp stove on the galley counter looks convenient for quick meals, but those green 1-pound cylinders are liquefied petroleum gas bombs waiting for ignition. Propane is heavier than air. When a disposable bottle develops even a small leak, gas sinks below deck, filling the bilge in every low compartment. You won't smell it. You won't see it. One spark from a bilge pump switch or corroded connection triggers an explosion that blows out decks and destroys hulls. Coast Guard incident reports catalogue LPG explosions every year. Investigators find the same setup repeatedly: portable camping stove, disposable cylinder, no vented locker. ABYC A1 mandates that all LPG cylinders must be stored in sealed vented lockers that drain overboard. No exceptions for weather or convenience. Even a teaspoon of leaked propane can turn a 30-foot boat into a detonation zone. Insurers call this gross negligence. If adjusters find green bottles under the sink or camp stoves on the chart table after an explosion, the claim is denied completely. The policy becomes meaningless. Remove all camping cylinders from the cabin immediately. Install a proper marine LPG system with vented locker, marine-rated hose, regulator, and shut-off solenoid. The fix costs a few $100s. The alternative is a denied claim and a hull split open by explosion. Unsecured batteries in the engine room. A loose automotive battery wedged under the stairs or sitting on plywood with nothing holding it in place is a fire starter on standby. ABYC E10 requires every battery to be secured in a box or tray, tied down so it cannot shift more than 1 inch, and protected against accidental short circuits. Walk any marina and you'll find lead-acid batteries held only by gravity. When a wake hits, the battery tips. The positive terminal contacts the engine block or fuel tank. You've created a 1,000-amp arc. Current melts copper, vaporizes insulation, and ignites nearby hoses. Cables glow red, smoke fills the bilge. If the battery vents hydrogen gas, a single spark turns the compartment into an explosion. Investigators see scorched wiring and blistered paint, then write denial letters citing ABYC E10 violations. No tie-downs, no box, no main fuse within 7 inches of the positive post means no coverage. Install a proper marine battery box, strap it down, and add a main fuse at the source. Skipping this step hands your insurer the justification they need to walk away from your claim. Solid core Romex cable for marine wiring. Yellow NMB cable from the hardware store shows up in bilges and behind panels like it belongs there. On land, the wire is legal and inexpensive. On a boat, it's a hidden fire hazard. Solid copper core cannot flex with hull movement. Every engine vibration, every wave works that conductor like bending a paperclip repeatedly. Eventually, the copper cracks inside the insulation. You won't see it or smell it. But under load, that hairline fracture creates an arc. Insulation melts from the inside. Sometimes the first sign is scorched wood. Sometimes it's a breaker that won't reset. ABYC E11 mandates stranded tinned cable for marine applications specifically because of this failure mode. Surveyors don't need to find the crack. They spot the yellow jacket and write fire hazard in their reports. NMB cable isn't rated for oil, heat, or vibration. It fails the moment it's installed. If Romex is hiding behind your panel, you're gambling your hull on saved dollars. Rip it out and rewire with proper marine-grade stranded cable. Anything less is a denial letter waiting to be written. Load-bearing hardware glued with 5200 A cleat glued to the deck with 3M 5200 looks clean and professional. No bolt heads, no backing plate, just a bead of white sealant and apparent strength. But adhesive is not a substitute for mechanical fasteners. Even 3M's technical documentation warns that adhesive strength cannot handle shock. Loads or peel forces. Under steady pull, 5200 can hold thousands of pounds in laboratory conditions. Boats don't operate in laboratories. When a dock line snaps tight in a storm or crew grabs that cleat during man overboard recovery, the load is instantaneous and violent. The adhesive peels away from the fiberglass, sometimes tearing up chunks of deck, sometimes letting the hardware fly free as a projectile. A glued stanchion or cleat doesn't just fail, it becomes dangerous and the deck develops a hole exactly when you need the fitting most. Surveyors call this improper installation. No mechanical fastener means no insurance coverage. Adjusters will not pay claims when critical fittings rip out because they were glued instead of bolted. Every load-bearing fitting must be through-bolted with proper backing plate and sealed with 3M 5200 as a gasket, not as the only anchor. Anything less is an accident waiting to invalidate your policy. PVC pipe for below waterline through hulls white. PVC schedule 40 pipe and a hardware store ball valve cost less than dinner out, but install them as a through hull below the waterline and you've written your own sinking report. PVC wasn't built for marine environments. It becomes brittle after a year of sun exposure, chalking and cracking with every flex of the hull. Drop a heavy wrench or hit rough chop, and that pipe can snap cleanly, leaving a full bore opening to the sea. ABYC H27 sets minimum standards. Seacocks and through hulls must survive 500 pounds of pull without breaking. PVC fails that test every time. Surveyors see white plastic, check for brittleness, and write one word: unseaworthy. Insurance adjusters don't argue the point. When PVC fittings fracture, water pours in at hundreds of gallons per minute. The boat sinks before you even locate the leak. Every season, claim files stack up with flooded cabins and total losses, all denied for non-compliant installation. The fix is straightforward. Haul out, remove every inch of PVC below the waterline, and install ABYC-approved bronze or Maryland seacocks. Anything else is catastrophe waiting for the next drop toolbox. Wire nuts in marine electrical systems. Orange wire nuts, the twist-on connectors used in basement wiring, appear on boats more often than you'd expect. ABYC E11 bans them outright, but they still show up under cabin soles and behind breaker panels. Boats vibrate constantly. Every wave, every engine start, every slammed locker door shakes those connections. Fine stranded marine wire works loose inside a wire nut. Contact resistance increases, heat builds, plastic softens, insulation carbonizes, and the connection arcs. You won't smell smoke until fire is already consuming plywood or bilge pump wires have fused into blackened lumps. Surveyors recognize the pattern: melted orange caps, scorched conductors, the burn signature of a silent fire. No insurance adjuster will pay a claim when they find hardware store connectors where marine-grade crimps should be. The verdict is immediate failure, not a warning. If you find a wire nut on your boat, cut it off and replace it with a tinned, heat-shrink marine crimp. Anything less is fire waiting for an excuse. Fiberglass-covered keel bolts. A resin-glassed-over keel bolt cap looks tidy and professional. No rust, no weeping, just a smooth dome where the bolt head should be. But beneath that shiny cover, you've created conditions for catastrophic structural failure. Stainless steel requires oxygen to resist corrosion. Trap it under fiberglass and resin, seal in a little bilge water, and you've created textbook crevice corrosion. Chlorides from seawater migrate into the void. With no fresh air to break the cycle, the bolt corrodes from the inside out. What starts as cosmetic work becomes a time bomb at the heart of your hull. Surveyors call this concealment of defect. It's not just bad repair, it's a red flag for fraud. Forensic reports after keel failures read like criminal investigations. Glassed over bolt heads, hidden rust, bolts that snap cleanly when tested. Owners may claim ignorance, but evidence is difficult to dispute. Encapsulated bolts rot in secret until the day the keel separates, sometimes without warning. The entire boat can be lost in minutes. In the worst cases, lives have been lost because hidden defects went undetected until hulls split open at sea. Insurance companies treat this as misrepresentation. If adjusters find signs that a known problem was hidden, especially something as critical as structural bolts, the policy is voided immediately. Claim files fill with words like non-disclosure, concealment, and willful neglect. Courts have sided with insurers in these cases, ruling that hidden defects are not accidents, but preventable losses. The only responsible approach is brutal honesty. Haul the boat. Grind away every glassed-over patch, expose every bolt head, use torque wrenches, ultrasonic testing, dye penetrant, whatever is necessary to determine true condition. If a bolt is suspect, replace it. If the keel is compromised, drop it and rebed. Document everything, photograph. Before and after, bring in a surveyor to sign off. Anything less is gambling with the entire value of the boat and the lives of everyone who sails on it. If you find resin over a keel bolt, stop. Remove it, inspect it, and repair it properly. The next hidden crack could be the one that separates your hull from your future. So, which dangerous repair have you found on your vessel?